And today's insider is Bernie Cho. Hello. Welcome to the studio.
안녕하십니까. I'm just messing with you. Hello.
I was like, wait, I know you know how to speak English. Okay, so please could you introduce yourself for our listeners around the world?
Hi, my name is Bernie Cho. I am the founder and president of a boutique agency called DFSB Collective.
Okay.
We are a Korean or K-Pop indie artist and label services agency. That's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah, it is.
But basically, we work closely with artists and their managers and their labels to export Korean music worldwide, whether it's through digital music services or through concerts, tours, showcases, festivals, whatnot.
So pretty much for all of our listeners who are listening to us through our VLive, through our YouTube live stream, for those of you in the States, in any other parts of the world, you're probably listening to K-pop thanks to Bernie.
Yeah, there's probably a high likelihood that we have some hand in it. So yes.
Now, you did say this right before we came into the interview, but we kind of technically crossed paths eons ago.
It's weird to say because when I say 90s, I'm nostalgic, but technically last century. But no, in the early 2000s, when I worked at MTV, when it still was music television. Back in the day, I remembered when you debuted as a K-pop duo.
Yeah.
And so, it was interesting because, MTV was fun, MTV was great, but over time, I noticed that a lot of viewers and listeners were moving away from sort of the TV screens to the smaller screens, computer screens, and smartphone screens. And so, during my time at MTV, I was very fortunate to be, not only front stage, but backstage as well for a lot of the Korean stars that were starting to break out and break through overseas. So, whether it was red carpets at MTV award shows, I not only could see but sense that Korean music was blowing up, but off stage or, at the after party, I would talk to a lot of these artists and their companies and realize that there were some frustrations in terms of how to kind of capitalize on this busyness into a business. And so that for me was a bit of a wake-up call that, being a fan is not enough. I got to figure out a way to sort of help Korean music kind of push the tempo so that, this connection with the fans wasn't just about selfies and snapshots.
Yeah.
There's got to be a better way for them to access and stream and download and buy Korean music. And so I was at MTV for such a long time. I actually got retirement pay. I know it sounds weird.
But you look so young.
Oh, thank you. And then I used that money to start my agency.
Okay.
And then from there,
the rest is history.
Well, it's not history because it's still ongoing.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, a work in progress.
A work in progress. Okay. So some of the places, like the platforms that you pretty much were able to kind of help be the first distributor for was like iTunes and Spotify and stuff like that, which is honestly, I feel that all of my listeners now, or a good 80% of them, are just like, oh, we've always had these platforms, but honestly, they're pretty young.
Yeah. So the idea kind of creeped up around 2008 that Korean music had to find a way to go worldwide, but as direct as possible. At the time, artists had to jump through so many hoops and wait for labels to pick them up or somehow push them out onto the market.
Yeah.
But, because of the internet, going international could become instantaneous. And so, I worked and figured out a way where Korean artists could go direct worldwide.
Okay.
And so my company was the first to do a direct deal with Apple iTunes.
Okay.
And soon afterwards with Spotify. And, now we currently work with the top 12 international music services around the world. So if you're looking for Korean music in Russia or in India or in all over Europe, chances are we were probably the first, if not one of the first, to supply music. But more importantly is the artists, because we work directly with these services. We're able to pay them, the highest rates possible because we cut out as many middlemen and maybe middle women as possible and pay them better than anywhere they could get anywhere in Korea.
Okay.
And so, but, just putting the music out there wasn't enough.
True.
And, when we first put it, Korean music out there back then, K-pop as a term didn't exist.
True.
It was thrown in as world music. And so,
yeah, it was.
So one of the tips or tricks, or some people might even accuse me of hacks that we did, was we classified K-pop and Korean music for what it was based on genres. And so if it was a Korean hip-hop act, we would classify them as hip-hop. Or if it was an R&B act, R&B or rock, etc. And what ended up happening was Korean music acts started charting worldwide on these genre charts. And this was something that other Asian artists, or frankly other Korean artists, weren't doing, because they would either throw themselves into the pop chart or classify themselves as Mandopop or J-pop. But as you know, in most other markets, those categories and genres don't even exist.
Exactly.
So if you stick your genre as that, you will never be discovered and you won't chart. And so once we started having Korean music artists charting on the R&B charts and electronic charts and hip hop charts, then it started crossing over to the pop charts. And then that's when these international services recognized that Korean music and K-pop, was actually popular.
Exactly.
And soon afterwards, around 2010, 2011, services like Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music began recognizing K-pop as an official genre worldwide. So K-pop was conveniently, beautifully sandwiched between jazz, which I love, and Latin, which is huge. So
exactly.
Boom, K-pop right there.
Right in the middle. So it's like I'm streaming down like, oh, what is this? And then we get a chance to click. Okay. If I remember correctly, doing my research back in 2008, like one of the biggest things that you guys did was Epic High's American tour. Am I correct?
2008's a little off, but close. It was, I think, 2009, 2010.
Okay.
Yes. So one of the first artists that signed with us was Epic High.
Okay.
And at that time, they were very much not only wanting to go international and independent, but they were very savvy on social media. I mean, they were one of the first artists to go big on Twitter and on Facebook and especially on YouTube. And so one of the things that we did was we actually helped them set up their first U.S. tour. And hopefully history will recognize this, but Epic High broke 2 records.
Nice.
One is they were technically actually the first Korean act ever to go #1 in the U.S. Nice. Their album Epilogue debuted #1 on the U.S. iTunes hip-hop chart, album chart. So that was a huge surprise. And then the second thing is technically they were the first sold out K-pop U.S. tour.
Nice.
But at the time when the opportunity arose, we thought it would be great if Epic High toured with another band.
Which even in the States, artists do.
They do. And at the time when I suggested it and I pushed the band the Epic High guys love the band that I suggested, but a lot of industry people were like, I can't say the expletive, but they were like, why them? Why them? I was like, you know what? Trust me. I've seen these guys live. They're absolutely amazing. It's going to work. It was Far East Movement.
There we go.
And no one knew at the time who they were and how big they were going to get. But the beautiful thing is that after that joint U.S. tour, which sold out, it sold out so quickly that San Francisco, LA, and New York basically called and said, we got to bump you up to bigger venues. So we ended up bumping to bigger venues, and then those sold out quickly. And so, again, a lot of people are like, how did this Korean tour sell out with no promotions? But, I had to say, look, it's not traditional billboards and newspapers or magazines or radio. It was social media. And, Epic High, proved concept. And the beautiful thing is after that sold out tour, Epic High went on to have that first #1 album, and then Far East Movement went on to become the first Asian American acts to ever hit #1 on the Billboard chart with Like a G6. But we had no idea. We just liked the guys, and they were fun. And everyone's like, how did you know you were a genius? I'm like, I had nothing to do with that.
But also I feel that coming from California and just being a part of the Asian community, to know that your favorite teams, we all support each other in the Asian community, and then to know that one team is coming back and they're actually having a U.S. tour, not we're coming for KCON or we're coming for Hollywood Bowl or we're going to be there at Changto or stuff like that. It's, I'm going to go on tour. It's like, yes, please, I'm bringing my friends at work and we're going to go see this. So I think everybody was just kind of waiting for it. It was kind of like you guys were kind of there at the right place at the right time.
I mean, the timing was great. And then, more importantly was the fact that the artists themselves, I mean, they were all in for the adventure because it was uncharted waters and, it was an amazing tour. And I'm super happy for them. And, Far East Movement, they've gone on to do bigger, better, great things. And, know, and now what back then was new is now normal. What back then was rare is now the rule.
Exactly. And it always has to start somewhere. So I heard that you kind of helped J Park out recently. So do elaborate about that a little bit.
Oh, it wasn't recent, actually. It's been for actually quite a few years. When Jay left 2PM and decided to go solo, he had done a few releases here and there with different places. And then we were fortunate to, of all people, meet actually Jay's father.
Oh, of course.
Who came to my office. I had no idea who he was. And, he's a very nice gentleman. And he told me that he had a son that made music. And I'm thinking, this is not kind of the typical sort of meeting we have when we try to work with or sign artists. And of course, I asked him, who's your son? He said, J Park. And then ding, light went off. It's like, okay. And then, I listened to some of the music and it was absolutely amazing. And of course, I asked his father, it's like, who did the music? And he's like, Jay's writing and composing and producing his own stuff. I'm like, wow, we would love to find a way to work with Jay. And, we can't promise much other than we'll just try our best. And so we worked very closely with Jay. And this was pre-AOMG. This was when he was literally just doing his own thing. We, helped behind the scenes, make sure that all his social media was kind of in sync.
Okay.
And then we just let him do his thing. And then we just did some support in the back. Helping him sort of get on the radar with international publications, media, and particularly the music services. And then Jay just started charting across Asia, beyond Asia, and just hitting #1 all over the place.
Yeah.
But particularly in the big markets, the key markets like the U.S., Canada, all over Europe and Asia. And so, it's been absolutely amazing. And, Jay right now is doing world tours. He's working with Rock Nation. And so it's been an amazing ride, an amazing adventure. And, he's now kind of moving on and moving forward on exploring bigger and better stages. But we've worked with Jay and his team for many years. And it's been absolutely amazing, not just working with him, but just even as a fan. I mean, his music has just, evolved to the point where to put him in as a K-pop star is almost a misnomer.
Yeah.
He's just a straight up star.
Pop artist, yeah. He's just amazing. So it looks like a lot of our listeners are giving us feedback. Like Shira was saying, Bernie definitely is the insider for today. He truly is. And Xana's saying, thanks to Bernie's company, now it's a lot easier for us to access K-pop music. And Shira was saying, I remember those early solo days of J Park. Wow, Bernie, I love you. So it looks like we're getting a lot of these fun, great messages today.
I know it's definitely not my mom because she doesn't use
It's
chatting.
not my mom.
Yeah, so I'll take it as it's real comments. Thank you.
So if you have any more comments or questions for Bernie, continue to send those in. We're going to take another quick song break before we come back. So we're going to take a listen to La Boom with Put It Out, Turn It On. All right, so today for our insider, according to our listeners, he's truly the insider of the K-pop scene. He's been distributing music probably through a lot of the platforms that you download your favorite celebrities from. And we actually had a question. So Nira is from Africa and would really love to see an artist perform in Africa soon. So is there anything like you've been in the talks of or maybe planning in the near future?
Performance, I can't say for sure quite yet. Definitely people think about it. But the biggest step we've made is, obviously with international services, be it Apple or Spotify now opening in Africa. And we're currently in talks with some of the bigger African music services. So hopefully more fans in Africa will have more access to Korean music very, very soon.
Nice. That sounds amazing. Okay, there's another question. So Liam was saying, is there any plans to create like an international app, music app that's just for international K-pop fans?
It's expensive to create that kind of technology and that kind of app. And that's, if I'm going to spend money, that's probably not where I'd like to spend it. But that being said, Korean music and K-pop has obviously gone global to the point now that you can't separate K-pop from pop music because it's become one and the same now.
True.
I mean, if you listen to a BTS and Halsey collaboration, which category are you going to throw it in?
Exactly.
So, as much as, if anything, I would recommend that the music services you're currently using, just keep locked in on the K-pop tab and just play all your favorite music not moving beyond that tab. But if anything, you're starting to see a lot of Korean music artists collaborate or sing in, be it English, obviously, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese. And so, K-pop is not going to be stuck in one
category,
genre, one tag, and hopefully not one app.
Nice. Okay, so hopefully we can keep that broad. All right. So I'm going to ask you some questions here, and it's going to be like a speed quiz.
Oh boy.
So it's called our 3, 2, 1 questions.
I never tested well, so okay.
So there are 3, 2, 1 questions. I'm going to give you 3 seconds to give me answers to questions. They could be a yes or no answer. They can actually be an artist. It depends. So the first question is, when it comes to the next BTS or maybe the next Psy, there is a rookie K-pop artist, at least one team that I think would probably be the next them in the world music market. 3, 2, 1.
I'm going to say female DJs, Yeji, Patty Gu, and Toki Monster. All happen to be Korean, all amazing. Next.
Okay. Now the next one is, when it comes to performances, which team or just solo artist or duo do you think has the best stage performances? 3, 2, 1.
Hands down, no question, Hitchhiker. DJ Hitchhiker. Okay. Look for him.
Look for him.
Crazy.
Okay, for the global scene, when it comes to music color and also the sound of their voices, if you were to look only at that, which star should we be looking out for? 3, 2, 1.
G-Dragon. He sounds punk, he sounds rap, whether he's ballads or screaming, he sounds great.
Okay, now the next one. I didn't even know this song was going to do well, but it did well. Which song was that? 3, 2, 1.
I'm going to upset a lot of fans, so I'm going to pass.
No, you can't pass. You have to answer.
All right. I love the song, but it blew my mind that it got so big. Was Girls' Generation G.
Okay.
G. I was like, wow, I can sing that one at a karaoke. Okay. No problem.
No problem. All right, next question. 3 K-pop songs that are on my playlist right now. 3, 2, 1.
Love X Stereo, Maybe I, Galaxy Express, Gegujengi, Naughty Boy, and Drunken Tiger Yoonmure, Get It In.
Oh, there we go. And then last but not least, honestly, I love music so much. I wanted to be a star one day when I was younger. Yes or no? 3, 2, 1.
I tried. I was in choir. I was so bad. The choir master told me to lip sync. That was the only way I was going to get an A. So yeah, that dream died a quick death.
A quick death in choir. Thank you, choir teacher.
Yes.
Okay. There was a few more questions that I wanted to kind of go back. And I personally have been asked this question a lot since I've been on both sides of the K-pop scene. And since I do host a show that does talk about K-pop too. BTS has become a equation that everybody is asking what this equation is, why the answer became this, and I'm really curious as to what your insight is.
BTS, I think in many ways has a lot of similarities with Psy.
Okay.
On the surface, it doesn't appear that because, Psy is large and in charge. BTS, they're super smart and super slim. But I think what comes through for both of those artists was originality and authenticity, and more importantly, artistry.
Okay.
These guys are not guilty of karaoke aerobics. I mean, yeah, they're good-looking guys. I admit that. But the reality is that they're artists, they're producers, they're singers, and they're songwriters. And I think that often gets lost in sort of the paparazzi flash of their fame. The reality is that these guys are very much part of the creative process. They're not, meat puppets or flesh bots. They're real artists. And I think that's what's resonating not only with fans in Korea, but beyond Korea, outside of Korea. And I think often that sort of strength and asset gets lost. But for me, I can appreciate and respect, whether it be Psy, but particularly BTS, because I know they're very much actively involved with the creative process of the songs they're making. And, they didn't have it easy. I mean, they weren't instant overnight successes. I mean, they had a lot of ups and downs. And I think through those struggles and sort of trials and tribulations, it gave them a lot of life experiences that they could tap into. Okay. And it comes through and shows in the songs and in the lyrics. And, when you hear fans around the world talk about why they not just like, but love BTS, that message comes out very loud and very clear.
Okay. All right. Now, speaking of fandoms, because you've been talking a lot about fandoms since we started the interview for today, when have you kind of felt like, man, fandoms are amazing, like they rule the world? Was there ever like a concert or a tour or ticket sales or anything that kind of was just like, whoa?
Yeah, I mean, we have to, go back to school, even though it's almost summer break. The word fan is actually derived from fanatic. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about K-pop fans, you have to look at the whole world. It's a fanatic. And it's amazing to see the passion that a lot of these K-pop fans have. I mean, in Korea, when I worked at MTV for, over 10 years, I thought I'd seen it all.
Oh, yeah.
But, with social media, it's gone to a whole nother level. And so, when I watch, one of the most fascinating things I love to check out is reaction videos.
Right.
Because as popular as Korean music videos are on YouTube, part of that popularity is fueled by fans who take the effort to create lyric videos, which is great. They translate the lyrics, and for guys like me who have bad eyesight now, that's what they're trying to say. But more importantly, it's these reaction videos, because Koreans make great videos, but then the reaction videos from around the world are arguably as good or better.
Yeah.
And when I hear the comments and the reactions and the facial expressions, that's when I know that K-pop's connecting worldwide. And for me, every time I travel around the world with artists, for me, the airport is to me is the litmus test of like, wow, this really got big. So for one, the fact there's now a thing called airport fashion.
Oh yeah.
Like now artists got to dress up when they got to go to the airport. I'm like, what is this? We can't walk around with shower slippers and a baseball hat.
Nope, you can't.
Yeah, it's got to be a luxury brand hat, and it's got to be, few $100 slippers, but then the fans at the airport when they're waiting, I mean, it's the signs, it's the kind of mob scene, but very well behaved mob scene, and so yeah, and then it always blows my mind that a lot of K-pop fans actually make the effort to learn Korean.
Oh yeah, all of our listeners.
And so whether I'm in France or wherever. I have people approach to me and with artists speaking fluent Korean, and we're like, no, it's okay. We speak English, or in some instances, some of the artists speak that respective language. And so that blows my mind because it puts me on the spot. It's like, I should have studied Korean more because theirs is really good.
Because theirs better than mine. Okay. This next one is, I feel that I've talked a little bit about this with my listeners too, because I do have listeners from so many different parts of the world. KARD is a team that is super popular overseas. Like their videos, the reactions, everything is a lot more popular than what we get here. Do you feel that there's like preference differences, or is like, what do you feel? What's your insight on that?
You know what? I think bands like KARD and sort of how they have searched for, but more importantly, found success, I think is absolutely the right way to go about it, because K-pop has gotten global. And so when new music or new videos are released, it goes worldwide instantaneously. And the thing is, you never know when a song or a video is going to get traction where. Some markets will move faster, others slower. And, again, with our acts like KARD, because they're multilingual and they're always touring, you never know where they're going to be the biggest at any point in time anywhere in the world.
Okay.
And, for me, as weird as that might sound, again, if we go through history and look at a boy band from Liverpool known as the Beatles.
Yeah.
They were actually, they cut their teeth performing in, of all places, Germany.
Yeah.
And then came back to England to go big, and then boom, bounced right out of England and came to the U.S.
Well, the Backstreet Boys and like NSYNC did that too. They went to Europe first, and then they went back to the States.
Right, and so this type of kind of trajectory to find fame in the homeland, sometimes it's not always organic and homegrown. Sometimes you have to go a little bit roundabout, but that's totally fine, because if the ultimate goal is to go global, instead of going inside out, sometimes going outside in is just fine. Okay.
We're going to take another quick song break, and then I'm going to look at some more of your questions, so continue to send those in. But in the meantime, we've got XOK singing Mama. All right, today for our insider, he really is the insider of the bunch, and it's Bernie Cho. And we have a question. So Nur was saying, why Why do K-pop always are banned from having open relationships? Bernie?
So it's weird. I was actually asked this question not too long ago in an interview on a news outlet called CNN.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that quote would get so big, because what to me was just kind of, yeah, that's how it is. People outside of Korea are like, what? It's a twofold question. One is because a lot of these big K-pop stars are with music companies that are publicly traded stocks, that God forbid there's a scandal with that dating situation. Those company stocks take a beating.
Yeah, they
and
do.
so so unfortunately, a lot of these music companies would rather take no risk, so no dating. And to me, that drives me nuts, because, on one hand, some of these companies are putting out boy band and girl bands that are singing love songs, but yet I know they have a dating ban. I'm like, this doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
What are they singing about? They have no idea. They have no clue.
But an FYI, all idols date, guys.
Uh-oh.
They do.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Okay. There was a question. We actually have so many questions. Xana made a joke that time is jealous of us at the moment because they have so many questions, but not enough time. So the next one is a pretty big one. Which K-pop artist do you think will be like the next big thing in the U.S. market?
Oh, I think I hit that earlier, but I personally think that this new wave of Korean female DJs, and they're not necessarily based here in Korea. They're all over the place, all over the world and touring. But Yeji, Korean girl who's now in New York, she's blowing up on the festival circuit. Toki Monster, Korean American woman from LA, she was nominated for a Grammy Award this year, and it just got no press and no love in Korea, but it's a big deal. Not just as a Korean, but as a female DJ. And then currently, most people don't know this, but the new model for LG who DJs is Petty Gu. And she's huge in Europe right now. As I think most people in Korea think, oh, she's an attractive model, but she's the real deal. She is, the master on the turntables. And so she's one to look out for. So I think that, and then, also, I'm a big super fan of this new show called the JTBC Super Band. And there's so many talented kids on that show that I think whoever wins or doesn't even comes close to winning could be the next big thing.
Benji is our next DJ.
Oh, really? Oh,
right
man.
after.
That kid is insanely talented.
Look at that. Benji's getting love.
Is Benji in the house?
He's probably in the studio outside somewhere getting ready for the show.
Oh, man. He is like every mom's biggest dream and worst nightmare. I mean, he plays.
He said it, not me.
He says he plays all the instruments, and yet he's a complete rebel, but he's very well behaved. So yeah, I would love to meet his mom and just count how many gray hairs she has because of him.
Oh dear Lord. Okay. So Xana has a few questions about leaked music. So is it really considered leaked if an album was released only in one music streaming platform? So let's say, the press is being called, it was only released to Spotify, but it was quote leaked. No, we didn't officially give them an okay to do it. So would that?
Yeah, you know what? This has actually happened to us a few times as well. So basically, worldwide, every Friday is considered a worldwide release day. And so everybody is asked to release all the new music on a Friday to just make things simpler for chart calculation purposes.
Okay.
But in Korea, releases happen every day, every hour. Yeah. And so there's no consistency. And so what happens is a lot of Korean music artists who want to do a global release, sometimes these services can't sync up with the Korean release. So sometimes the overseas release automated might come out a little bit quicker than Korea. And then other times, because the Korean ones come out a few days earlier than what they're supposed to, maybe overseas, these gaps occur. But the reality is that I think if the music's good, the fans will figure out a way to download it, buy it, or streaming it. And so if it's a difference of a few days or a few hours, so be it. But I think the problem is that if you're counting these gaps and say, oh, I love it so much, I got to find a way to download it for free, then we got a problem. But, the reality is that music is so widely available on so many platforms worldwide, there's really no excuse to pirate the music because it's there.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, if you don't feel like buying it, there's services that have advertising so that someone's paying the artists at the end of the day. And that's all that matters.
Okay. Tasmia from Bangladesh is asking, okay, so we talk a lot about first generation, second generation idols. What generation are we seeing right now? Is it like the fourth generation, fifth generation, sixth generation? What is your insight on that?
I have to do the math on that. But I think, for me, I'm very simple. I do them in 10-year blocks. So
Okay.
I consider the first generation of K-pop idols the 90s, second generation from turn of the century to 2010. And we're now finishing, I would like to say 3.0 because it's 2019 and 2020 is knocking. So I'd say we're at maybe generation 3.9.
Okay. 3.9. I love that one. All right. So Leon was asking a few questions too. What do you think are the reasons that more K-pop songs and albums are doing well in global digital charts like Billboard now?
I think it has to do with the fact that obviously the music's good, the videos are great, but Korean artists and Korean music companies have made the discovery of music, the access to music much easier than other Asian music because it's something we take for granted. But very simply is like if you happen to be curious or you're a fan of Korean music, you can easily find that song or album because chances are the artist's name is available in English as well as the song or album titles have not only the Korean but English usually
Titles.
side by side. And that's often not the case with other Asian music because, for instance, some of the biggest Chinese acts, when they're distributed overseas, their album title is literally listed in phoneticized English, where it's the Chinese word but spelled in English. So no one Chinese or English knows what it is. Or in Japan, often it's just the Japanese title only.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Or the English translation that none of the J-pop fans are aware of, that's the translation. But Koreans have figured out a way to master Konglish. But I like to think of it as sort of Starbucks marketing.
Okay.
Because anywhere in the region, when you go to Starbucks, you can always order your favorite coffee because it's the local language and then English side by side. And if it works for Starbucks, obviously,
It's going to work for the world.
we can make more bucks for the stars doing that. So, yeah.
Oh, I like how you did that. We have from our V-Live a few of our listeners from the Philippines who wanted me to say hi. So hello, thank you so much for listening. We got Sue1993 from Korea asking, out of all the concerts you've been to, the best.
Oh, that is a tough question because someone's going to get upset later when I drink
No, they're
soju.
not. No, they're not.
For me, consistently every year is the Korean Music Showcase at South by Southwest. That's always a highlight for me because no matter who's in the lineup, the artists that get selected and are chosen to perform at South by Southwest every year, it's a great balance of indie acts and sort of K-pop acts. Older acts, newer acts. But whenever I see those bands and those artists go on stage in the U.S. at South by Southwest, which is essentially like the Super Bowl or the World Cup of music,
Pretty much.
to me, when I look at those artists, it feels like I'm watching the Korean music industry version of the Olympic team, the national team, because it's like the best of the best are out there. And what's really great is when you go to those showcases, those concerts, most of the people in the audience are not Korean or, for that matter, Asian. And so if you're going to hit the ground zero in the biggest market in the world, South by Southwest is it. And, consistently every year, Korean acts just blow up and go big. And a lot of acts have gone on and done great as a result of that particular stage. And so for me, the simple question is it's not one particular show, but it's one particular stage every year, South by Southwest, Austin TX.
Loving it. Okay. Out of all the musicians you've met, Sarana is asking, is there still a musician you really, really want to meet?
Yeah, there's actually a band I'm a huge fan of. They're called Pyeol.org. And they're designers, actually, who happen to make music. And I love their music. If you go online, you have to find this song called Taepyeong, which is Pacific. Beautiful video, great song. Problem is, they only release in vinyl, only LPs. So A, it's hard.
I love them already.
It's hard to find their music. B, they don't even like to appear in their own music videos. And when they do, they're usually like one of the actors in the back. So you're like, isn't that guy in the band? But more importantly, they're sort of like the Korean version of Underworld, where they're just creative artists who are great designers, but happen to make really good music. And, every time I find out that they're going to do a show, which is really rare, once in a blue moon, by the time I find out, it's already done. I'm like, oh. So they're sort of my mystery man crush at the moment is pl.org.
Loving it. All right. They keep saying that, time is against us today, but it really is. I think I'm going to have to lend this here and then just make an excuse to bring you back into the studio so we can have like part 2 of your interview, because we already have to say goodbye.
Oh, no, that's all good. So,
I'm going to bring you back.
Okay.
But before you go, is there anything that you wanted to talk about, maybe promote an artist that might be going on tour with you guys soon or through you? Anything, or maybe just again, an artist that you want them to kind of look out for before you go? Wow.
That's not an easy question. That was 10 in 1. I just think, for anyone out there who loves Korean music, K-pop is not teen idol dance music. It's Korean music that happens to be popular. And at the moment, urban acts, electronic acts, rock acts are all finding a whole lot of love. And so think of K-pop as just really popular Korean music of all shapes and sizes. And if you hear the word indie, again, it's not the starving artist, singer, songwriter in Hongdae. Indie's a business model. And whether it's an idol act, an icon act, or, a quote unquote indie act, Koreans are fiercely independent. Give them a whole lot of love.
Okay. They are fiercely independent, so give them a whole lot of love. All right. I think I have one more time,
Sure.
one more question to ask before I go, because I got so many questions today that I really, really, really want to ask this. Do you think that the physical album market will eventually die?
No.
Okay.
Because the CDs are merchandise. They're beautiful. They're collector's items. So if anything, Korea has found a way to revive CDs like the British have figured out a way to revive LPs. So yeah, I think CDs are not going to go away, but instead of CDs with booklets, we're going to end up buying books that happen to have CDs.
I feel that that's pretty much where we're going. All right, I'm going to be signing off with Bernie today. I'm going to see my listeners tomorrow, same time, same place, and we're going to see Bernie next time. As we sign off at the studio today, we have Shinhwa singing T.O.P., Twinkling of Paradise, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.